Nook Miles are a brand new currency unique to Animal Crossing New Horizons. We earn them by performing different tasks around the island, and we can spend them on a number of different upgrades and items. As a feature, it exists to provide rewards and incentives for players, but how does this feature hold up after a year of gameplay? Animal Crossing has historically been a very self-driven game, but these tasks have given players more direction in their day-to-day life than any of the previous games. While previous titles had players discover what they enjoy working toward, New Horizons has created an app to more effectively track your progress. Earning Nook Miles does a couple of things for the player. One, it educates new players on the world of Animal Crossing and different tasks they are able to accomplish. 2, it provides a gameplay loop that rewards players through their day-to-day. Some may call this new system a bit too hand-holdy within the game, but I think it's been the cleanest way goals have been handled in Animal Crossing. Meaning, it's relatively uninvasive. We receive our Nook phone and are immediately taught about Nook Miles goals. We aren't told much beyond living our day-to-day life. We're told to go off and explore, and as we do things, we'll earn Nook Miles. Previous iterations of the game would rely on villager dialogue or signposts to teach us about different activities. This game gives us pages and pages of empty tasks, and it's up to the player to discover what they all are. It opens up a world of experimentation. We try a number of different things to continue unlocking more and more cards. When more cards unlock, we find more and more milestones we can work toward. As we uncover these cards, we're also given different titles we can use on our passports, a relatively small reward but cute nonetheless. Overall, the system helps new players find what they enjoy doing in the game. We can choose to spend our evening shaking trees for furniture, or we can try to catch 100 fish in a row without messing up. As we build a schedule and enjoy our daily pleasures, we can get a little bit extra through Nook Miles. Additionally, there are always 5 Nook Miles Plus tasks that we can work toward as well. Each of these are bite-sized chunks of larger goals and will keep rewarding us as we work toward the larger goals. Every time you complete a task, it is instantly replaced by another. They keep the gameplay consistent, but are also crucial in keeping the Nook Mile economy going. As we play more and more, our Nook Mile goals get harder and further in between. Nook Miles Plus keeps the system running. Of course, this is where we run into the difficulty with earning Nook Miles. Finally caught 100 fish? That's great. You'll get your next goal at 500 fish. However, once you complete that, you're looking at 2,000 fish for the next goal, and 5,000 for the final goal. Sure, you may get a Nook Miles Plus task to catch 5 fish here and there, but how many times do you have to accomplish that goal to finally catch 5,000 fish? 1,000 times. The answer is 1,000, and that's too much. The main trouble with Nook Miles is that early on in the game, they are so obtainable. You're consistently being rewarded for playing the game. You get to enjoy your daily activities and get little bonuses here and there, but pretty quickly, you're running into longer tasks and the rewards become very few and far between. As an example, I caught my 2,000th fish on November 7th, 2020. That was a full 7 months after completing the previous goal of 500 fish. The worst part is that almost 4 months later, I haven't caught too many more fish beyond those 2,000. Fact of the matter is, I've already caught and donated every fish into the museum, and there isn't much incentive for me to continue fishing unless I actively try to achieve this goal. Instead of the goal rewarding me for living my day-to-day, it has become my day-to-day. If I ever want to achieve this goal, I have to actively attempt to achieve it. The goals go from being passive goals to active goals in the late game, meaning if you're not a completionist, chances are you aren't going to hit these goals because they start to require so much time and dedication from the player. At the moment, there are 87 cards worth of Nook Miles tasks. Each ranges from 1 task to 6 tasks to complete the entire card. Some cards were added during one of the content updates, but this has only happened once thus far. While there are plenty of goals to keep you occupied, the current list feels very static. The current list also really only appeals to those who find joy from making a daily list of chores to accomplish while they play the game. While that may be right for somebody like me, it's definitely not for everybody. The game could definitely benefit from having more Nook Miles tasks added with each update. Players who have stepped away from the game and come back for the update are given a little bit more incentive to stay if these goals provide enough engagement. Now, I've talked extensively about how earning Nook Miles adds to the gameplay, but there are two sides to this Nook Mile coin. One side is earning Nook Miles, the other is spending Nook Miles. Are Nook Miles worth earning if there's nothing to spend them on? Of course not. Luckily, there are a wide variety of items and upgrades that you can purchase using Nook Miles at the Nook Stop. Little note here, logging into the Nook Stop daily will net you some extra Nook Miles. After 7 days in a row, you get 300 Nook Miles for each consecutive login. Nook categorizes rewards as special, DIY recipes, items, and novelties. The special rewards are majority built around quality of life and customization updates. These rewards can expand inventory space, give you new hairstyles and colors, skin tones, reactions, and terraforming abilities. Of course, you can also find Nook Miles tickets in this section. The DIY section is full of new recipes you can learn as well as the fencing recipes. You can only find 2 fence recipes in stock every day. Once you download any recipe that isn't a fence, it'll disappear from that catalog. The items that you can redeem are a wide variety of utility-driven items, things like street lamps, public benches, and vending machines. You can use a lot of these items to decorate public facilities around your island. These also vary in color depending on your airport color, so you'll have to interact with others to get some different colors on your island. Finally, the novelties are all Nook merchandise and memorabilia. If you're the biggest fan of Nook Inc., you can show it by buying every piece of merch they've got. The Nook brand is definitely strong in this game. Some items are instantly redeemed, while others have to be mailed to you. There is a limit of 5 items getting mailed to you in a single day. There is no limit on items that are instantly redeemed. Of course, redeeming them can be incredibly slow. More on that a bit later. There are a mix of one-time purchase and multi-purchase items. Most items in the special category can only be bought once. In the late game, you tend to be left with 3 redeemable rewards in that section: Bell vouchers, Nook Mile tickets, and customizable phone case kits. The DIY recipe section suffers the same fate. The only items you'll see in rotation after a while are the different fence DIYs. The item and novelty sections remain full, but once your island fills up, getting more of these items becomes less and less necessary. After enough time with the game, the only item that retains its value are the Nook Miles tickets. And honestly, Nook Miles tickets tend to run the online economy. While Nook Miles tickets can have other benefits, their primary purpose is villager hunting. Most players are driven to complete Nook Miles rewards in order to get the tickets they need to hunt for their favorite villagers. While the early game offers many rewards for your Nook Miles, the late game is reduced to grinding for Nook Miles, and it's not a quick task. Even after earning a ton of Nook Miles, redeeming the Nook Mile tickets can be incredibly slow. You have to redeem one at a time. There is no option to redeem multiples at a time. This would be no problem if you only needed a couple here and there, but most players are buying hundreds in order to go hunting for their villagers. The minutes really start to rack up ordering that many. We have seen other rewards added through updates, but most of them have been one-time purchases. Once those are obtained though, players tend to return to the Nook Mile ticket economy. Overall, spending Nook Miles needs as much of an update as earning them. Nook Miles can provide a satisfying gameplay loop for new, existing, and returning players if done correctly. New players benefit the most from the system, but as gameplay progresses, the rewards greatly diminish for players who stick around. Returning players are also not given too much to be excited about in regards to Nook Miles, so they tend to drop off pretty quickly. For the most part, players return to the game with nothing new to spend Nook Miles on. It feels like a missed opportunity since Nook Miles are so closely tied to the gameplay and day-to-day of Animal Crossing. If players came with a lot of new items and upgrades to redeem at the Nook Stop, it would incentivize playing the game and get them logging back in more often. While I have set my own goals to complete every major task and become a Nook Millionaire, I recognize that being a completionist isn't enough incentive to keep players engaged in the Nook Mile system. There needs to be more of a reward for longtime players who intend to play the game for months and even years. Animal Crossing is a game that thrives through its real-time clock and passing seasons. Nook Miles would greatly benefit from tasks and rewards to capture the real-time clock. There are a good amount of tasks that are season-specific, but the rewards are missing. If the program grew as time passed, it would continue creating rewarding experiences for the players. The concept for Nook Miles is definitely strong in the early parts of the game, but after a year, interest and incentive in the system has diminished greatly. Right now, I do the tasks for the sake of completing every card, but it would be a much better system if I earned a better reward than a stamp on a card. The Nook Miles tasks definitely extend beyond a year in terms of gameplay, but the rewards for Nook Miles don't last quite as long. For the first time, crafting has been introduced to a mainline Animal Crossing game. Moving to a deserted island, players can take advantage of the natural resources and use the DIY system to improve their quality of life. Learning recipes and crafting is one of the main gameplay features in New Horizons, but does it hold up after a year? DIY starts with recipes. There are several ways to learn recipes. You can think of one for yourself after performing a special action, they can be purchased or redeemed, villagers can teach you new recipes or crafting, you can find them on the beach through message bottles, you can shoot them out of the sky in balloons, and you can learn them by completing events, or you can trade them with friends. Learning recipes through actions, events, and purchasing or redeeming recipes seems to have the shortest lifespan. There are a limited amount of new recipes that you can earn through those processes, so you'll gain recipes more consistently through villagers, message bottles, shooting balloons, and trading with friends. Any day you log in, you can rest assured that there will be somebody crafting and a recipe bottle waiting for you. However, you're not assured that these will be new recipes. As the game progresses, you learn more and more recipes and the amount of duplicates you collect increases. This is where trading comes in. You can always take your extras to a friend's island and exchange with them. Later in the game, this is going to be the most consistent way to continue learning new recipes. That is, of course, until the seasons change. When a new season hits, there are a lot of recipes that can be found during a certain period of time. Since these recipes are very specific to the season, they can be used to really bring your island to life. They tend to be the most sought after recipes during that time period, especially the short time-framed recipes like Maple Leaf and Cherry Blossom recipes. Unfortunately, seasonal recipes are overwhelmingly found in balloons. This fact has been the bane of fans' existence. Balloon recipes tend to be the most troublesome to find due to the time and the effort. Also, you aren't guaranteed that you'll receive a new recipe or even a recipe at all when you shoot down a balloon. There are a number of different items that you can get instead of recipes. The season that stood out most from this was Halloween, because those recipes were crafted by your villagers, so you could just show up and there was a good chance that they'd be crafting a Halloween DIY that you would need and then receive that way. That was kind of the cleanest event in regards to collecting seasonal recipes, but unfortunately, that wasn't the norm throughout the year. While collecting recipes starts off exciting with so many to collect, your empty catalog begins to fill up. It becomes a source of disappointment as you get more and more duplicates and less new recipes. Of course, while collecting DIY recipes can get boring after a while, crafting provides a much more consistent experience for the players. Previous Animal Crossing games had a lot of time constraints in regards to collecting items and decorating. Shops were the main source of items. Once you bought out their stock, you had to wait until the next day to get more. Collecting items was also really dependent on luck. If the shop didn't have something new or what you were looking for, there was really nothing you could do about it. The crafting system has removed the old time constraints and given players the ability to craft a huge amount of items to use immediately. Players are given a more active role in item collecting instead of an inactive one. Instead of waiting for shops to have something in stock, we can craft it. Instead of waiting for shops to open at all, we can craft it. Basically, the item catalog has been split between crafting and shopping. While shopping involved a lot of waiting, crafting involves actual work. You have to chop trees, hit rocks, pick weeds, grow flowers, wish on shooting stars, and perform a number of other tasks in order to get materials that you need to craft every item. We are taught to interact with the environment and gain the ability to fill our homes and islands with cool things. We were given a tool that let us overcome the many time constraints past Animal Crossings have had and slowed our progression. In turn, the game turned into something that could keep our interest for hours instead of minutes. It also gave us more incentive to play through the seasons. While collecting the recipes for seasonal DIY was a nuisance, The rewards were often great. We could collect the materials and craft pretty easily. It made changing up your island during a season a lot more enticing. I spend a lot of time redecorating my house when the seasons change. I like to change the items that feel like they make more sense for a certain time of year. It tends to happen around my island as well. More and more, I find myself crafting a new set of goodies to decorate with. And that's kind of what's great about crafting itself. It keeps the game going. There's always the opportunity to reimagine any of your designs and quickly make what you need for it. On top of that, there's all the customization too. If you get bored with any item or theme, you can customize that item and give it a different feel. I'd say the only unfortunate thing that happens with customization is that not all items can be customized. This can be especially annoying with items that come in different colors, but have to be bought to get that color. That's where we get into the limitations of crafting. While it opens up the gameplay and can keep us busy, it isn't really a deep system. There's so many items that can't be customized. Fences are a big one for me. We all know about those white picket fences. Why can't we customize our fences to look like that? Some items don't have a lot of options for customization either, while others feel nearly endless. The ones that can use custom patterns literally have no end to their options. Others just give you one other set. It feels like there are a lot at the start, but the options start to feel thin after a while. That said, Nintendo has done a decent job of introducing new items each event. Some of them can be really specific, like Halloween items, but others feel like they can be used for many other occasions, like the Turkey Day items. As long as there are more and more DIY recipes added throughout a lot of the year, I'm pretty satisfied with the crafting. It feels like there are a ton of options right at my fingertips at any given time, and for a completionist like myself, it has a satisfying sense of progression. At one point, I favorited every single DIY I had yet to craft. Getting that little check mark on the box saying that I've crafted one was satisfying enough to actively go for that goal of crafting everything. There really isn't a reward attached to that alone, but the checkmark was something I needed more than anything. I would love a lot of little quality of life fixes for this feature too. I know a lot of people really want multi-crafting. I personally would love an improved navigation or search bar. I have nearly every recipe at this point, and it can be a pain scrolling through the list to find something specific you're looking for. Navigation through the menus are also a bit strange throughout the game, to be honest. Why is there a miscellaneous section and an other section? Are those not the same thing? Overall though, I love that the crafting was so well integrated to the world. I know plenty of people who came into this game with a lot of skepticism about crafting in Animal Crossing, but I try to keep an open mind about it. It turned out to be a nice way to make the gameplay throughout the year a lot more active than previous games. It feels like the developers really took the setting into account. They told us we're going to a deserted island and have to make do with what we have, and the crafting system gave us the tools we needed to do so. That said, I nearly forgot to mention tools, so those break now. And we have to craft them over and over and over, and even when we're rewarded with the golden tools, those still break too. I guess I don't hate it in this game like I didn't really hate it in Breath of the Wild, but I can see why people don't like it, and I have no idea why they decided to make the golden tools break too. At least do people a solid and give them one type of tool that they don't have to worry about. All this said, I do enjoy looking forward to the seasonal recipes. I love the little daily chores of chopping trees, hitting rocks, and collecting materials wherever I go. I find that stuff relaxing. I know people are turned off by the chore simulation of Animal Crossing, but it's a really nice way to sit back and take it easy. I also love exchanging the lists of DIYs that I'm missing with friends and keeping an eye out for them while I'm playing the game. I feel like the DIY system has really kept me connected with people who play the game. It gets me just as excited to find a recipe a friend is looking for as it does when I find a new recipe for myself. I find myself crafting pretty consistently after a year of playing the game. As long as I keep adding recipes, I think the crafting definitely holds up for long periods of time, and the year hasn't really worn down that experience quite yet. When you first move to your island in New Horizons, there's nothing there. You and two villagers who have moved to the island with you have to learn to make do with the basic amenities. You pitch a tent, and you have to craft all of life's comforts. This gives the game plenty of opportunity to give players a real sense of progression as they develop their islands. Since we start with nothing, it's our jobs to fill in the space, grow the economy, and create cultural points of interest all over the island. Building development is a big part of the gameplay and progression. Previous Animal Crossing games have featured their own share of facilities, but none have taken a direction quite like New Horizons. We have to grow the island from nothing and attract interest from museum curators and business owners. In total, there are 7 different facilities players have access to from the island. You start with 2, Resident Services and Dodo Airlines. The others are the Museum, Nook's Cranny, Able Sisters, a campsite, and Harv's Island. Dodo Airlines is your connection to the outside world as well as the post office. It doesn't ever upgrade during your playtime, but the travel options do expand slightly as you play the game. One funny quirk about this building is that it does determine what color items you can redeem with Nook Miles at the Nook stop. It can come in 4 different colors, but as of right now, the color and look of the building can't be altered. Dodo Airlines is one of the most static buildings on the island. Resident Services paints a different picture. It starts off as a tent with a crafting bench, a small shop run by Timmy and Tommy, and a CEO there to help guide you through your new life. They will help you with your basic needs, but as you develop the island and start attracting more and more residents, the needs of the island begins to increase. That's when Tom Nook decides to expand and hire some extra help. After an upgrade, the Resident Services building leaves tent life and becomes a proper building and gets updated from dirt floor to brick floor. Along with that, Isabelle is here to offer additional services like your island rating and change your town flag or town tune. The new building also signals the start of the hourly tunes in the game. The update to Resident Services really signifies a shift in your island. It gives more of a small town vibe, and it feels like it's ready to grow. It actually kind of feels like you've gotten to the island to the point where you typically start in Animal Crossing games, and the work to get there feels very satisfying. After 1 year, there's only one upgrade to Resident Services, and it takes place in the first couple weeks of the game. I wouldn't mind an additional upgrade that introduces some new surprises. Specifically, I'd love to have our home customization options greatly expanded. Resident Services is only the starting point, however. Players are able to expand the island's culture and economy, too. One of the first places that starts is with the museum. But the museum works in a much different way than it ever has in New Horizons. I always found it kind of funny that you move into a small town and there's a giant empty museum waiting for your contributions. It made no sense to have such a huge empty building in town. New Horizons has you earn the museum, and it starts with attracting a scholarly owl. After donating 5 creatures to Tom Nook, he sees the potential for a museum. He calls Blathers up, and Blathers pitches a tent to research the island himself and determine if it's a place truly as lush as Tom Nook has described. In New Horizons, the museum is something that's earned instead of given. This is the first time we see the museum go through its own stages. It starts off as a tent with nothing to display. It gives Blathers a much more explorative persona and looks adorable both inside and out. After donating enough to Blathers for his research, he finally decides he should update to a full building. This building adds exhibits for bugs, fish, and fossils. You can finally get a look at the creatures and fossils you've been handing to him. As it fills up, the displays also become more decorated and scenic. Once again, after reaching another threshold of donations, the museum will upgrade one final time to add an art exhibit. A jolly sailor by the name of Red will begin to visit us and bring a collection of rare works of art. Of course, you may not always get lucky with old Jolly Red, but his first piece of art does trigger the upgrade. Between building the initial tent and 2 upgrades beyond that, the museum is more interactive than it's ever been. It truly feels like progress as you unlock each new aspect, and they all make sense. You start without a museum because you're the first to settle on the island. From there, the first exhibits are focused around the natural wildlife. Finally, it grows large enough to display rare imports. Each update to the museum feels earned, and it really grows the collecting gameplay. Nook's Cranny is another staple of the Animal Crossing series, but this is the first game that doesn't feature that shop from the start. Instead, Timmy and Tommy start out by selling you things from Resident Services. Eventually, they will express interest in building a store, and this is done in a truly unique way. In order to build, they ask you to collect and provide materials. They ask you to supply 30 pieces of wood, softwood, hardwood, and iron nuggets. Instead of simply appearing one day, the players are tasked with collecting the resources needed to build. It is such a great way to make the act of adding a shop more engaging. It also gives players a bigger sense of pride and ownership when they finally see Nook's Cranny on their island. The next upgrade is still exciting, but a bit underwhelming. This upgrade feels like earlier Animal Crossing games. Buy enough things and wait enough days, and the store grows. It's also the largest size the shop will get for now. On one hand, it's sad to see that the shop can't get any bigger, but on the other, it really wouldn't make sense to expand it with the current catalog. It's just too small. New Horizons made a significant change to shopping by introducing crafting. For one, it gave players a more active role in collecting items they use for decoration. In previous games, players really had to rely on the shop for items used to decorate. With crafting, the catalog was split in half between shopping and crafting. With so many items dedicated to crafting, there aren't enough items to necessitate a bigger shop. Sure, I think it would be great to see more than 5 or 6 items on display, but we already see a lot of repeat items as it is. If a shop were to upgrade, we'd probably see the same 7 to 10 items on display instead of just 5 or 6. I think the day we get an expanded catalog is probably the day we're going to see Nook's Cranny finally upgrade. Able Sisters is another important shop throughout the Animal Crossing series. Mabel starts out as a weekly visitor on the island. She brings a small assortment of clothes and accessories to test out the market. After enough sales and visits, she decides the economy is strong enough to open up a shop. There's no upgrade to Able Sisters at the moment, but the shop does give us access to a lot more clothing, which is in pretty short supply when you first start the game. I do wonder if we'll ever see Label join the family business, or an expansion that includes Kicks. While the museum was earned through the wildlife and Nook's Cranny was earned through resources, Able Sisters is earned through the economy. It truly feels like the final piece to prove that you've masterfully developed an island that is capable of a booming economy and culture. The campsite further shows off the desirability of your island. Tom Nook asks you to build a campsite to attract more visitors and possibly convince them to move to the island. It gives your island a more recreational feel alongside the small town vibe that the other buildings provide. There are currently no upgrades to the campsite. The final facility is Harv's Island. This one is accessible through Dodo Airlines after Harvey has visited and told you about Photopia. This cabin on a private island is a space to create scenes for photo shoots with your villagers or compatible amiibo. It's more of a bonus playground feature that has only really had one event that gave you extra items. There are no upgrades, but I do hope that it is used more often in the future to expand our items and let us see more special characters that currently aren't in New Horizons. As far as building development goes, you can expect to have every building built and fully upgraded within the first 2 months of the game. After that, there isn't much change outside of the seasons. There might be new stock of items or clothing, or new contributions to be made to the museum, but the buildings have felt pretty stagnant since then. You can always move them around your island and redecorate, but their general functions remain the same. This is a shame considering how active a role you played in building them up in the first place. At the start of the game, every new building felt like such an accomplishment. You worked so hard to make it appear on the island. You provided the resources with your bare hands, you helped them find a space on the island that would suit their purposes, and you made it their home. I feel like New Horizons did such a good job of giving you a sense of ownership and pride over its buildings that appeared. Unfortunately, there aren't any more buildings to add beyond this. The game truly shined when we were tasked with earning each building. I still think there's a lot of potential for expansions to the existing buildings or even new buildings. As long as we play an active role in earning these new facilities, it can create even more satisfying experiences beyond the ones we've long passed. Shopping has always been a reliable way to get players to log in daily in Animal Crossing. With only 2 shops in this game and a rotation of different merchants, it can be a little difficult spending as much time shopping as you did in previous titles. Even with a rotation of special visitors, there's no guarantee that you're going to get one that is going to sell you anything. From the list of visitors, the ones that sell things to you are Sahara, Leaf, Kix, and Red. But before we get too far into their shops and what they have to sell, let's actually focus in on Nook's Cranny and Able Sisters to begin. We've already talked about how Nook's Cranny only has a single shop upgrade. Once this shop upgrades, you'll find 3 items in the back, 2 on display on a little counter, and 1 possible special item in the front left corner of the store. Outside of this, there's also a large cabinet full of many different things, so let's actually go through this really quickly. For one, there's always a selection of tools available to you. One of the things that's very unique to this is that you can keep buying the tools over and over. There's not a limit of just one like previous games. The same thing goes for the 2 items on the counter right next to the cabinet. These items are mass-produced and therefore can be bought over and over from both your player and any visiting players. This is actually a huge upgrade from previous games because it gives people the ability to share their shops more freely. I remember I struggled with that part in New Leaf because I'd always have to go through my shops before even opening my gates. I didn't really want to risk anybody buying out the items before I got a chance to shop. Nowadays, I'm a lot more comfortable letting people in and knowing that I'm not going to be missing out on too many items if they do come and buy something here. The cabinet also features a lot of wallpapers and floorings. Once again, you benefit from the same thing where once you buy something, you can keep buying it over and over again. There's no limit to this at all. That means if you have any wallpaper or flooring that somebody is looking for, it's easy for them to come and get it at your shop without it affecting your own gameplay. The same goes for any of the flowers, the saplings, even your customization kits, wrapping paper, DIY, even your native fruit is on sale here in limitless quantities. It adds to the activities that visitors have when they visit because they know they can at least look at your cabinet and see if there's anything that they need there. The back wall is full of items that are purchasable only once. Typically, the item on the far right is going to be the most expensive item on display, and these can often reach hundreds of thousands of bells in value. Outside of that, you'll see these rotate on a daily basis, just like the other items as well. I've talked about this in previous parts of the review, but the biggest thing with this is that the catalog is pretty small in Animal Crossing New Horizons. The items are already split between crafting and shopping, so you're going to notice a lot of the things in your shop keep appearing over and over. The one difference is that your island is only going to get a certain color of item. That means it's going to take you shopping on other islands in order to complete your catalog. Unfortunately, at the moment, there isn't really a way to customize these items into the colors that you don't own. You're really stuck shopping at other places. On the one hand, it kind of holds your progress back if you're trying to complete the catalog, but on the other, it does really get you communicating with other players in order to complete your collection. Overall, Nook's Cranny is pretty straightforward. It's a lot like previous games. Unfortunately, it doesn't upgrade anymore, but I don't think there's a big enough catalog to necessitate an upgrade. And after a year of playing, I'm already pretty much done buying everything that has ever appeared in my shop, so typically, I tend to leave it open for other players, especially those who are looking to complete the different color sets. I'd say one of the biggest things I'd like fixed about it is having the ability to buy the mass-produced items in bigger quantities. Typically, we're only getting a choice between 1 or 5 of any given thing, and it'd be much more effective if we just got out a little calculator and said, I want 12 of them, please. This would be especially helpful with the customization kits, which only come in quantities of 1 or 5, and they can stack up to 50, so if I could buy 50 all in one swoop, I would do so. The next shop located directly on your island is Able Sisters, and it benefits a lot from the same things Nook's Cranny does. For one, you no longer have to go and beat everybody to the store because everything is just available at all times, even more so than Nook's Cranny. There isn't a single item in Able Sisters that can only be bought once. All you have to do is go into the dressing room and you get to see a huge selection of things, and best of all of the colors are available on your island. You don't have to go to other people's islands in order to buy different colored clothing. You have tops, bottoms, dress up, headwear, accessories, socks, shoes, everything that you could ever use. I'd say the biggest problem with this shop is that there's no add to cart button. For every category, you can only wear one piece of clothing at a time. You're gonna have to put the clothing on, purchase it, exit the dressing room, go back in, and do that over and over again until you have every single color that you want. It really can be annoying to do this more than once. Luckily, you do have the benefit of being able to wear multiple pieces of different clothing. That way you can come out wearing an entire outfit. This can speed up the process slightly, but it would still be pretty nice to have the other option as well. Able Sisters also kind of benefits from the seasonality of the game. It makes the shop feel consistently more fresh than Nook's Cranny as the seasons change throughout the year. I don't think it needs an update quite like Nook's Cranny does, but I do think we need to see more items and clothing overall come year 2. It's by far the easiest shop for everybody to benefit from. I don't go to a single island without visiting their able sisters. So let's finally focus on these special visitors. Like I said, Sahara, Leaf, Kix, and Red tend to be the main visitors that have things to sell. From Sahara, you're going to be getting carpets, rugs, and wallpapers. She doesn't show you anything she has, and you're really only buying everything at random. There tend to be 3 different rugs that you can purchase, a small, medium, and large. You can only buy one at a time, so it makes this whole process a little bit slow, but it is pretty nice when you get a rug that you're really looking for. Depending on the size, every time you buy a rug, you're going to get a different amount of Sahara tickets. These tickets can be used to redeem another rug. If you buy all 3 of the rugs, you're going to come out with an extra ticket and have one to save for later. This comes in handy because after 5 visits, you're going to be able to get both the free wallpaper and a free carpet. The next thing is a mysterious wallpaper and a mysterious flooring. If you buy one of these, you're going to get something at random, and you're just going to have to get lucky to get anything you want. These items cannot be ordered from anywhere, and they're only obtainable through Sahara, so it really takes a lot of visits to get multiples of a different flooring or wallpaper if you want one. I'd say the biggest flaw with Sahara's store is the fact that it's all kind of dialogue based. There's no way to look at what she's got. You really just have to click through her dialogue, select something, and then she'll sell it to you from there. And that said, it's kind of a bummer because everything she has is random and you have no control over what you're collecting. You really just have to get lucky if you're looking for a certain wallpaper, carpet, or rug. But it's also kind of fun because you don't know what you're getting. It's always kind of exciting to see her and wonder, is this the day that I'm finally getting that carpet I've been looking for? The next visitor is Leaf, and I've got to be honest with you, Leaf, though I liked him in the beginning, he's probably one of the more boring visitors that we get now. His shop tends to have a bunch of greenery that you can grow. These are the pumpkins, the bushes, and the flowers, and that's basically it. I think where Leaf kind of suffers is that after a year of playing, he is not as exciting as Sahara. Like Sahara, yes, you don't really get to choose what you're getting, but it kind of keeps you buying from her just to see if you get anything that you're actually looking for. Leaf, on the other hand, you just kind of look at his shop and just say, cool, what else could there be? I think the thing Leaf needs to be more interesting is an expansion to the greenery. For one, we do have pumpkins and they're a great start for farming, but I kind of expect there to be more crops for us to grow. Give Leaf more crops and I'm sure I'll be buying from him more often. On top of that, I'd really like to see more variety in trees. Animal Crossing has always had kind of these same 3 trees. It's the cedar, the hardwood, or the palm trees, and I'd really like to see some more variety. We've seen some pop up in Pocket Camp that look really great, and I'd love to see even more come to this game. I think the greenery definitely needs an expansion, and that would make Leaf a lot more interesting a visitor. The next person we have is Kix, and I'm gonna be honest with you, while I do really like Kix, it feels kind of strange that Kix is in the game. I think the Able Sisters already cover clothing incredibly well, and seeing Kix's selection, like I'm never really blown away. Basically the only unique thing he has is backpacks. That's the one thing that's not in stock at Able Sisters. That said, the selection of backpacks is really fun and I'd want to see more, but it seems very strange that Kix isn't just joining Able Sisters in their shop already. I don't want him to completely disappear, I just feel like they need to find a way to make his character a lot more relevant. Finally, we have what is probably the most sought after visitor, and that's Red. Jolly Red parks his boat on our secret beach and gives us a nice selection of artwork to peruse, as well as 2 special items. These special items tend to be color variants to the ones that are available on your island. So while we can't find these at Nook's Cranny, it is nice that they came up with a way to give us access to these variants if we have no ability to visit other players. Of course, the most enticing thing at Red's is going to be the artwork. He tends to come with 4 pieces, and it's no guarantee that all of them are real, and it's no guarantee that all of them are fake. This makes it really cool to have other players visit and buy some artwork as well. And I'd say even the fake pieces are pretty enticing because they can still be used as decoration around your island. I think the biggest issue that I'm seeing happen with Red is that it's increasingly difficult to get a new piece for your museum. The main goal is of course filling out your big exhibit in the art museum, but I found it pretty hard to do this late in the game. I've gotten over half of the pieces at this point, and it's really rare that I see anything that's new. And when I do, it's really rare that that piece is even real. I'd say compared to previous games, New Horizons is much easier to get real art pieces than it has ever been. For one, you have the ability to make extra characters and have them go and buy multiple pieces as well. That way you can always have a nice stockpile of real pieces to trade online. I think overall though, Red really remains consistent over the year, and I really still want to see him. So as far as shopping goes, it's kind of difficult to make that a big part of your day in this game. For one, you're only really ever going to see 3 shops at a time. 2 are the staple shops on your island, and 1 is the possibility of a rotating visitor. I think as far as shops on your island, Able Sisters is a lot more effective in maintaining our interest over a year. While Nook's Cranny feels like the selection just needs to grow in order to make it a little bit more captivating for players. As far as special visitors go, Sahara and Red are definitely stronger than Leaf and Kix in my eyes. Now don't get me wrong, Kix isn't terrible, I still much prefer getting him over Leaf, but I just feel like he'd make more sense being tied into the Able Sisters shop at this point. There are a number of special visitors that can appear in any of the 5 weekdays in New Horizons. We've already spoken about Sahara, Leaf, Kix, and Red, but today I want to go into some of the other characters that we can see. Some of these can only visit Monday through Friday, but others can actually appear on multiple days throughout the week and on days when there are already visitors. These characters are Wisp, Celeste, and Pascal. Of these, Pascal is the easiest to find on a daily basis. All you really have to do is find a scallop and he'll appear. Celeste and Wisp are a lot more random, but they still come out pretty often. So let's go over these 3 characters pretty quickly. Pascal, like I said, will appear when you find a scallop while diving. Once you find the scallop, he'll actually pop up and ask for it. He's a hungry guy, and I actually recommend feeding him. So if you give him a scallop, he'll actually reward you with one of 3 things. Typically, it'll be a DIY for mermaid furniture, a pearl, or a special piece of mermaid clothing. There is a whole set of DIY furniture that you can get from Pascal, and it's pretty nice for anybody who wants to go with an underwater beach theme for their island. That said, there's no guarantee that you're going to get a DIY recipe. It's actually probably more likely that you're going to get a pearl. Pearls can be really difficult to find on your own, so I'd say the bulk of your supply is actually going to come from Pascal. While it may be a little bit of a bummer that you're getting a pearl instead, you do actually need quite a few pearls to craft the entire mermaid set. So it's not the worst thing he can give you. Pearls also sell for 10,000 bells, so if you're ever low on cash, I'd say just cash out with the pearls. Once you have all the DIYs, he won't give you any more, but you can get multiples of the mermaid clothing. I do think once you've gotten a lot of that DIY furniture that you want, you're probably not going to find yourself diving too often. But Pascal is very unique in the sense that if you want to find him every day, you actually have the ability to do so. So let's talk about Wisp. Wisp will appear on random nights, and he tends to be a little bit afraid, so if you talk to him, he's going to disappear into 5 spirit pieces, and you're going to have to chase them down. That's basically his task. You really just find the 5 pieces, put them back together, and he'll give you something new or expensive. As far as Wisp goes, I'd say the biggest benefit is for players trying to complete their Nook Miles tasks. Once you complete Wisp's task 20 times, you really don't have to talk to him too much. I've never found it hugely beneficial to get an item from him. The something new option seems to be the best one, because when you ask for something expensive, it's very rarely ever really something expensive. Something new does benefit you though if you're trying to find those color variants, because he can supply you with an item that you don't have the variant of on your island. That said, it's not always furniture that he's going to give you, so it's not always a guarantee that you're going to get that, and it's a pretty random item, so there's not even a guarantee that you're going to get something that you actually want. Finally, the last character in this group is Celeste, and I'd say she's the favorite of the group for sure. She'll appear on a random night when there are shooting stars. There can be nights with shooting stars where she doesn't appear, so it's mostly random, but when she is there, you know there's going to be shooting stars on your island. When you talk to her, she'll provide you with a DIY recipe. These recipes will either be a zodiac recipe or a space recipe. So this is actually where she has the advantage over the other two characters. While Wisp, I'd say you only really have to talk to 20 times to get everything you need from him, and Pascal, you really only have to talk to until you get all the DIYs. Celeste is different in the sense of every single new zodiac month, you're gonna get something new from her. She remains consistently rewarding throughout the entire year. There are a total of 12 zodiac recipes, so it really takes you an entire year to get them all. Every time you see her after getting that month's zodiac recipe, you get a space recipe instead. There's a pretty huge catalog of space recipes that you can get, so it's pretty beneficial to talk to her any chance you get. I think after a year of playing, I was most consistently asking people if they had Celeste more than a lot of other visitors. Finally, the last of the groups are those ones that are limited to only appearing Monday through Friday. Here we have Label, CJ, Flick, Gulliver, and Gullivar. I think of this bunch, Label is the least interesting to me. She will give you a fashion quiz and then reward you with some Able Sisters tickets. While I kind of prefer these tickets for decoration, they actually are pretty helpful for those trying to complete the clothing catalog because you can get free items pretty often with them. I'll be honest with you though, I don't really talk to her too often if she does visit. From here, we have CJ and Flick, and both of them run pretty similarly, but with one difference. CJ has the option for a fishing challenge. This fishing challenge will typically have you catch like 3 small fish in a row, or 5 fish in a row. It really doesn't matter, he just gives you a challenge, and once you complete it, he'll let you sell fish at a premium price. I'd say the main benefit of both of these characters, though, is the models. You can commission a model to be made by Flick. CJ will take 3 of any fish, and Flick will take 3 of any bug. Once you give them those, Flick will make a model of that bug or fish. This is the most enticing thing to me from these two visitors. This actually expands the gameplay for CJ and Flick a lot more than a lot of the visitors. For one, there are 80 different fish and 80 different bugs, so if you only have one playable character on your island, you can expect it'll take 80 weeks before you can get every single model. That's about a year and a half. I actually have 5 playable characters on my island, so every time they visit, I am getting 5 models from each of them. But even with that number, it's still gonna take about 16 weeks to get an entire set, and that's all really dependent on if I'm able to catch 3 of everything by then. There are some fish like the stringfish or the barrel eye that are very rare, and some bugs in the summer that I just can't get access to right now. So these characters actually have me playing the game a lot more in order to complete that model collection. From here, we have Gulliver and Gullivar. They're pretty similar, and frankly, they're probably the same person, but dressed up differently. But that said, they do have a lot of really cool items. Gulliver tends to give us a lot of worldly items, while Gullivar gives us pirate stuff. Gulliver's task can be a little bit more annoying because you do have to find 5 buried pieces in the sand, but I actually kind of really like his items, so I don't mind doing it. There's also the benefit of after doing this task 30 times, you do get rewarded with a golden shovel. That said, it can take a very long time to get that golden shovel, and as far as this recording goes, I still haven't done it. Gullivar instead has you diving into the ocean to find the entire phone. How that phone still works, I don't know, but it seems to get the job done. Once you do Gullivar's task, you'll be sent a pirate piece. These pieces are really awesome, and it's kind of unfortunate that there's so much clothing because I really want the furniture. But, I mean, the clothing's pretty cool too. Overall, I'd say Gulliver and Gullivar also kind of maintain their consistency throughout the year. I think I've been excited for every time they visit versus somebody like Label who, you know, if they visit, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to talk to them. Overall, I'd say Gulliver and Gullivar are both pretty exciting visitors to get. CJ, Flick, Gulliver, and Gullivar tend to maintain the consistency throughout the year and keep you playing a little bit more than other visitors. Label, for example, I mean, it's really hit or miss if I talk to her that day. Sometimes I talk to her by accident. So after a year, I'd say there are a lot of visitors that really bring a lot to the game. I'm always looking forward for people like Red and Flick and CJ and Gulliver, but others, they kind of fall short of the mark. I'm hoping some of the other characters that do fall short eventually become mainstays to the island, and a new rotation of more interesting characters start to get worked in. I think that's the biggest thing that would benefit New Horizons in Year 2, just giving us more new things to look forward to versus the current state of things. I want to see more visitors like Red that make people really excited to log in every day. I know it can be annoying for players when they find a character that they don't really like, and if we just replace them with characters that we really are looking for, it'll make every single day in Animal Crossing that much better. When playing New Horizons, it's clear that the development team really focused on the ability to fully design your island to fit your vision. Whether it's terraforming, moving buildings, or decorating outside, this is the closest players have ever gotten to an Animal Crossing maker. This game fully commits to the design aspect to the series and gives us freedoms that I would have never thought possible in previous titles. There are 4 major aspects to island design: terraforming, bridges and inclines, buildings, and decorating. Terraforming allows us to fully create cliffs, rivers, and paths all around the island. I find the path making to be the most user-friendly of the 3 interfaces. It's easy to really dress up an area by simply changing the ground. You can create horizontal or vertical paths, but I have no ability to create any diagonals. You can round off edges or keep your edges square depending on what look you want as well. There are some cool little elements associated with different paths. For example, the dirt paths let you plant trees and flowers and give you a more earthy feel. The sand lets you plant palm trees on the main portion of the island. Any of the stone paths can give you a developed look while also limiting flower growth. When walking or running on the paths though, you'll hear a noticeable difference depending on the path you're on. As you build paths, they'll also appear on your map. It's pretty neat to see how your town becomes more developed and your map becomes a representation of that development. The built-in section of the paths is a bit limited, but the custom design option adds truly limitless options, especially with the transparent color. Whether you love designing your own paths or find some online to download, there are so many different options that help overcome the lack of diagonal paths or the small selection that is already available. I'd say the only disappointment I have with the custom pathing option is the loss of footstep sounds. I would love to get a sound effect option when creating paths so you can tell the game what type of sounds should be made whenever walking on custom paths. Cliff construction and waterscaping are a lot clunkier to use than path making, but they make much more dramatic changes to your landscape. These tools give you nearly complete control over the cliffs and rivers. You get to determine the directions your rivers take, you decide whether you want to live in a mountainous terrain or not, you can completely recreate your island at any time. If you're ever unhappy with an area, you can just tear it down and create it anew. Your map can be completely unrecognizable from the island you first moved to. This all said, building cliffs can be a slow process because you can only build or destroy one square at a time, and these projects often span large areas of land. You often need to terraform much larger portions of land in order to make use of them. You can build up to 4 tiers of land, but the 4th will be completely inaccessible without glitches, so it's usually only worth going to the 3rd tier. As far as waterscaping goes, this is the clunkiest feature of the bunch. It can be pretty difficult to get your rivers looking natural. It also takes a lot more practice to mostly master this tool, but once you do, you can make things looking pretty cool. The only places you can't really change are your river mouths, the ones that lead into the ocean. I guess I should note you also can't use any of these terraforming tools on the beach, so that's a big limitation, but the mainland is all fair game. While there are some limitations to terraforming, it doesn't hinder the fact that you're free to do almost anything on your island. Of course though, terraforming is only one aspect of island design. Bridges and inclines can be used to connect your island more effectively. Sure, you can always use a ladder or pole vault to traverse the terrain, but it's much more convenient to have a well-placed bridge or incline. You can have up to 8 bridges and 8 inclines, but unfortunately that number isn't really interchangeable. For example, you can't have 16 bridges and 0 inclines. The max is 8 for either. The most beneficial of the two are definitely the inclines, because with the waterscaping, there is a way to overcome the limitation of crossing rivers. All you really have to do is terraform a little skipping stone in the middle of the river. Then you can hop across like it's nothing. Inclines become a much hotter commodity because there isn't really a way to traverse the cliffs without an incline or a ladder, so really, an incline is going to be really convenient for you. While there are a lot of different styles for the bridges and inclines, the selection is fairly limited, and I'm actually surprised that they haven't updated the game to include more. As far as building them, there are different prices, and it does take a day to build after you've paid it off, so you do have to spend some time to really fill your island in with bridges and inclines. On top of that, if you ever want to destroy one and move it around, that will also have a cost associated with it, and it will also take a day, so be sure to really check out the placement and make sure that's exactly where you want it, otherwise you're going to be spending a couple days to get it back there again. One thing that I'm really surprised with in terms of placing bridges and inclines is the lack of ability to really change the camera and make sure that's where you want it. This was a huge limitation in New Leaf, and I'm really surprised that they didn't think to upgrade our camera to see, oh, let's move it to the left a little, let's move it to the right. I don't know, placing it is just clunky in general. Once you pick a spot, it shows you it from one angle, covers it immediately with some text, and then you're left trying to take screenshots before that all happens in multiple places so you can quickly flip through your options. Reviewing after placement can really use an upgrade. The next major change that you can make to your island is building relocation. You can move players' homes, villagers' homes, and even the shops around your island. The only places that you can't really move are Dodo Airlines or your resident services building. But really, with that said, if you have a full island, you're looking at 10 villager homes and up to 8 player homes. Moving your homes is especially convenient whenever you're going to do a major overhaul of your island. You can simply move all of your villagers and your player homes to the beach and then change your island up completely and move them back to their new spots. I've done this myself, and it takes a really long time. For one, you can only move one building a day. That building usually costs 30 to 50,000 bells depending on what you're moving. And if you're planning to do this with every single home on your island, you're going to be paying quite a bit and spending several weeks moving these houses out of the way. That said, it is incredibly convenient to be able to move villagers' homes. Previous games, you would have to deal with them moving onto your paths, into your flowers, into your forest. Whatever they moved onto was literally destroyed, and you had to rethink the spaces. Personally, I kind of didn't mind that because it did make me reimagine how my paths worked and work around those little inconveniences, but I can definitely see why players wanted this type of feature and have more consistent control over how their island is displayed. Another little portion that I would add to this is that we do have some home customization options. These are for the players' homes, and you can't really change your villagers' homes at all, but it is pretty nice for those who have extra characters and really want to do a theme with them. Those options include being able to change your roof, your mailbox, your door, and your siding. These options will unlock as you upgrade your home, and that's kind of unfortunate because a lot of the options would be very cute in a smaller home. One of the strengths compared to the previous games is that we can actually see our home with each option. You can click a setting and you'll see it right away on the left. You can also see the different curtain arrangements and switch between day and night. One thing I would love for them to add to this though is being able to see your home in different seasons. Right now they really only show like a spring or summer setting, so you kind of have to envision it on your own if it's autumn or winter. I also feel like the selection of customization options is fairly limited, and I really want them to add more. The final portion of island design is outdoor decorating. You can completely decorate your island with furniture, greenery, and fencing. New Leaf did a pretty good job with this, but there were just so many limitations toward placing things. For one, they had to be spaced apart correctly. After that, you also had to pay for it, and from there, you had to wait a day for it to actually be built. New Horizons takes that all away. No matter what you collect, you can put it outside, and it is wonderful. It also isn't limited by the spacing like it was in New Leaf. You can place things really close together, close to cliffs, close to trees. It doesn't really matter where you place things for the most part. This gives us the ability to build a more authentic world. Whether you want a little outdoor cafe or your place is pirate themed like my friend Nina, you can really do a lot with outdoor decorating. As far as limitations go though, it is a big bummer that we can't place carpets outside. A lot of people are left using their custom design slots to create little picnic blankets outside, for example, and it's really a bummer when we already have some carpet options that would work really well for that. You also can't place any wall items outside. I think it would be really cute to use the cliff walls or the trees to hang things up throughout the island. Finally, there's not really a decorator mode for exact placement. For example, if you make a really large table and put it outside, there's no way to put an item in the direct center of that table. You have to kind of deal with using these sides only. Also, one of the biggest things that happens with islands once they're very well developed, you'll notice a really low frame rate in these islands and lots of pop-in, just items popping in left and right. It's very clear that the developers really tried to give us as much freedom as possible, but it didn't take players long to realize how much their performance is going to drop once they take advantage of that freedom. This all said, it is very clear that the developers worked so hard to make this the most customizable Animal Crossing that we've ever gotten. As far as like the design players go, there's no beating this one. We're literally able to take the land on our island and completely alter it in ways that we never thought possible. Between making cute little yards, making these phenomenal landscapes, and just building bridges and inclines throughout the place, people can make truly unique islands that have never been done before. And these tools remain consistent throughout the entire game. It doesn't matter if it's day 1 of unlocking these tools or day 500, I think the gameplay that we get out of designing our islands remains the most consistent throughout the year. In a game called Animal Crossing, it's only natural to expect animals to make up a big part of the experience. Throughout the series, we've been able to befriend a wide variety of little critters who bring excitement to our lives in a new town. To me, the villagers should do some incredibly important things for the players. First, they should be a source of friendship on the island. Through conversations, gifts, and favors, we are able to grow and nurture our relationships with each villager. Second, they should bring life to the experience, whether it's their behavior around the island, how they interact with the world, or even just their visual aesthetic. They ground the reality we inhabit and make it more believable. Since these animals are such a huge part of the game, I think it's important to discuss how well I feel they were implemented in New Horizons. New Horizons starts by bringing a completely new concept to the move-in process. Players set off to their new home, but instead of befriending the locals like previous games, you and 2 other animals are the founding members of your own island. The 3 of you are going on this journey together, and this actually does a lot to make you feel connected to them. You all have the shared experience of moving into tents and living off the land. You all build your lives together, and eventually you move into full homes. Unfortunately, once your moving companions upgrade, their homes don't really improve. In fact, the first 5 villagers on your island all have set templates based on their personalities, and very little can be done to improve upon their spaces. This feels like a real missed opportunity for the game. We've already seen the first 2 villagers upgrade from tent life to a home. That did wonders to make players feel like you were all growing and progressing the island together. Imagine if they were able to expand their homes, add rooms, remodel their interiors, customize the exteriors, and build on their personalities. It felt so sad that they stopped short and didn't keep the concept growing. We've made connections with these animals and we're basically left with little incentive to keep them, unless we're okay with having them live in homes that don't fully capture their personality. I guess that brings us to their personalities. Conversations with the villagers are the main form of engagement that we get. While I know people have a huge problem with the villager dialogue, I'm actually kind of a fan of it in this game. I think I happen to have a playstyle that allowed me to see a lot of interesting conversations around my island, from characters having conversations with each other to other quirky things they say when you visit. There's actually a huge range of dialogue you can experience in this game. Where the problem arises is that players have a hard time finding that dialogue. Villagers are programmed to feed you the same basic lines of dialogue when you first greet them every day. They'll either give you a quick hello, comment about an activity you did yesterday, or mention a recent visitor or another person living on your island. This is true for nearly every single villager you run into at first. Unfortunately, this made it so players saw a lot of repetitive dialogue, especially if they had multiples of certain personalities. We get it, you saw us in a dream last night. Because the dialogue was so repetitive, players missed out on what happened after revisiting villagers multiple times and later in the day. I think the developers tried their best to recapture a real-life experience through the dialogue. Fortunately, my style of playing was ideal to experience the dialogue. I'd log in first thing in the morning, speak to all my villagers, and give the quick morning hellos. To me, that first piece of dialogue is the small talk before you get into the big talk later in the day. I'm busy doing my dailies, so a quick hello feels nice when starting my day. Once I'd return to the game in the afternoon or the evening, this was when the villagers would open up. Because I already greeted them earlier in the day, they knew I wasn't as busy and could chat with me a bit more. I've had a lot of great conversations with my villagers because of playing this way. They're engaging, tell funny stories, and even ask your opinions on a variety of different topics. You could talk to them more, and they would sometimes ask for favors, helping you complete that Smile Isle Nook Miles goal. Overall, I feel like the dialogue isn't the problem. It's the way you have to play the game to find the dialogue that is hard for players. For anybody only checking in once and finding no incentive to talk to your villagers at all because of the repetitive dialogue, it's going to be hard for them to discover the friendships I was lucky to find in my villagers. The next form of interaction is gifts. While your friendship level will increase when you first speak to a villager, it'll get a huge boost from the right gift. I tend to enjoy gifting clothing and native fruit, but I do occasionally find a piece of furniture that works well with their homes. The biggest incentive for gifts is getting a photo from your favorite villager. While most players avoid giving gifts that will replace items in their villagers' homes, there are easy ways around that while working toward a photo. While friendship is a huge part of the experience, the life villagers bring to your island is also important. I look at this as their behaviors, interactions, and overall aesthetics. Villagers are more expressive than ever in New Horizons. They zoom around, sing songs, research the local wildlife, exercise, eat donuts, and sit so we can see their cute little toe beans. I find their activities around the island to be quite adorable, and you can always find a good photo moment when walking around. As far as interactivity with the island itself, this is a lot harder to pull off. You can put benches around your island, but you still catch your villagers sitting on the ground next to those benches. A lot of the decorations can go unused on the island, and it makes the experience feel emptier than it should be. The biggest example of this is when villagers are fishing or bug catching. They'll never catch a single bug or fish and just give up if you wait long enough. While the behaviors are cute, the lack of interaction they have with the world around them makes it feel more like a diorama or model that they were walking through. But my goodness, they look good doing it. New Horizons is truly the best villagers have ever looked. Their aesthetics have been greatly improved with the new HD renders. Even villagers I didn't care for in the past look amazing. I remember the first time I saw them with sleeves, my mind was blown. Gone were the days of tank tops in the winter. We're able to give villagers t-shirts, sweaters, dresses, hats, and accessories. There are endless combinations of clothing to help make our villagers fit our aesthetics perfectly. So this gets me to obtaining villagers. There are three main ways to get villagers: random move-ins, villager hunting, and amiibo. I'm a real old school Animal Crossing fan, so I'm kinda partial to the random move-ins. I prefer to be surprised with who moves in and meet new friends. I've just played the game for so many years, this fits my style best. For others who don't like that, this game is the easiest it has ever been to obtain villagers you want. While amiibo can be used freely to get almost every villager in the game, the matter of availability is a huge issue. It is expensive to get amiibo cards for every villager you want. With them out of production, that price is only going higher. This is especially sad for the Sanrio characters. If somebody is unable to get those amiibo cards, they have virtually no chance at getting them to move in. Fortunately, there is villager hunting. You can spend Nook Mile tickets to find every single villager in the game except the Sanrio villagers. Of course, this all depends on how many Nook Mile tickets you have and how long you're willing to search. But It does give every player the ability to find those most wanted villagers without spending more money. As far as the villagers go in New Horizons, I'm pretty happy with them. I think there are a few drawbacks that can dull the experience, like getting better dialogue is difficult for the vast majority of playstyles, and their interactions can leave the world feeling empty. But when you're able to get your favorite villagers, unlock their deeper dialogue, and dress them up just right, it's really hard not to be charmed by them. As a series, the developers have always viewed Animal Crossing as a communication game. They built gameplay ideas around how players can share their experiences with others. It's the foundation of the series, and one they unfortunately got wrong in Animal Crossing New Horizons. The biggest thing that held New Horizons back was its multiplayer. And I don't mean the fact that there isn't much to do online with friends, nor the time it takes in order to fly over to an island and connect to other players. No, the biggest multiplayer feature that held New Horizons back is the one people use the least and often forget: the local multiplayer. I'm so torn about this because it really comes from a loving place in the series. Animal Crossing creator Katsuya Eguchi talked about how the game was a way for him to connect with his family during times of loneliness. His family had different schedules, so they'd play on their own time and log in to see surprises from each other. It makes so much sense why New Horizons was built so carefully around the local multiplayer experience. And while it's a sweet thought, unfortunately, I think it limited what was possible with the game. The first negative effect it had was a single island per console. The developers wanted every Switch profile to log into the same island. They wanted everybody who played on the same Switch to have a personal investment with the island. And I get it. It's a lot less invasive than everybody logging into your profile in order to access their save. But the main issue is that the vast majority of players prefer the solitary endeavor of Animal Crossing. Raise your hand if you want to share an island with other people. Now, the majority of you probably didn't, but I'm sure some of you did, and I want to let you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's really fun to play an island or town together. My first experience with Animal Crossing on the GameCube was a shared town, and I loved it so much. The issue I have is that we can't choose. I came into this game really hoping that each profile would get their own island and that we could play up to 8 different islands on a single Switch. How much better would it be if every person in a household could have their own island, and then you could also have an island that you all shared? You could log into your account and play your own island, and the family account to play your shared island. That feels ideal to me. And how many 8-person households are there? I feel like there's a rare group of people out there with 8 people all interested in playing Animal Crossing on a single island together who are living it up. Now, multiple islands is an expensive cost for the players. People, especially kids, don't have a cheap option to play their own island and get complete control of the game. Because here's the thing. The player who starts the island at the beginning controls all story progress. If you are a secondary player moving in, you're forced to wait in order to push the game further and unlock more features. So let's get into actually playing the game. One of the biggest complaints I've seen about New Horizons is the lack of shops. Where's Leaf's shop? Where's Kick's shop? Where is Brewster's coffee shop? Well, because the team focused so much on optimizing the game for the possibility of 8 players on a single island and up to 4 players playing at the same time in local multiplayer, cuts had to be made. The amenities we have on the island were planned around the fact that space was saved for 8 buildings whether we use them or not. Currently, there's no limitation on how many items we can place outside, and if you visited those super crowded islands, you've definitely experienced how the performance of the game can plummet. Well, the performance can also plummet when playing 4-player local multiplayer. With all the characters out, you start to see the frame dips and the lag on your island pretty easily. Right now, we have Nook's Cranny, Able Sisters, the museum, the campsite, 10 villager homes, and up to 8 player homes. That's 22 buildings to move around the main island. They limited how many big buildings we could place on the island in order to keep the game running as smoothly as possible. But they also created that problem by allowing so many player homes. I honestly believe this is why Kix and Leaf don't have their own building. This is also why I think If Brewster's eventually added, he'd be inside the museum instead of having his own building. Every character that has been added after release has had their own designated spot, and none of them have a new building on the island. Red got the secret beach, Pascal got the ocean, and Gulliver got stuck on the beach like Gulliver. If the devs didn't have to plan for the possibility of 7 extra player homes, maybe more of the cut special characters could have made an appearance. So that's how local multiplayer limited the possibilities with New Horizons. Online multiplayer is a lot of the same as we've had before. All of us have heard the complaints over online multiplayer like slow travel and not much to do, but the biggest gripe I have is the loss of minigames. Sure, exploring friends' islands and shopping it's nice, but once that's done, there isn't much to do beyond it. It would have been nice to see the online gameplay be more than show and tell. Luckily, mailing items is convenient and quick. It's unfortunately limited to a couple letters per day through Dodo Airlines and a couple more items through Nook Shopping, but it's a great way to send an item quickly to a friend. They got the basics down, but there isn't anything really special in the online multiplayer. Really, I'm just sad to see that so much of New Horizons' experience was built around a feature very few care about. Because Animal Crossing is a real-time game that is designed to be played over an entire year or even years, the content available needs to represent that. Whether it's fresh conversations with villagers, new items in the shop, more clothes for their wardrobe, or a surprise visit from a special character, the expectation of a new day is new content. It's an incredibly difficult expectation to meet, but it's one the series was built around. And unlike previous iterations of Animal Crossing, we came into this experience knowing that additions would be made to the game over time. We knew the holidays would be added in future updates, but we didn't know what that would entail, nor what else would come through updates. What I did know was that regular updates to the game made a lot of sense. A game that was meant to be played a year or more could be kept fresh and incentivize players to keep returning. It would provide future surprises that could change up the game and generate a lot of excitement for the community. So I want to focus on how well the content updates extended the longevity of New Horizons and contributed to the real-time game system. I'm going to look at the updates and see how they improved seasonal, monthly, and daily gameplay. Through the updates, we got major holidays such as Bunny Day, Halloween, Turkey Day, Toy Day, and Festival. We also got minor holidays such as May Day, International Museum Day, Wedding Season, and the Fireworks Festival. Each of these filled the calendar with activities we could enjoy throughout the year. The first update came in very early, and players got to meet Zipper T Bunny and collect some of the ugliest DIYs in the game for Bunny Day. While I'm not a fan of the majority of items that we got for Bunny Day, for me, the concept was the strongest of any of the holidays. I enjoyed that the holiday took over the entire island. All our activities had a Bunny Day twist to them, and that went toward the event. And the event added around 40 DIY recipes, and there was variety in those DIYs. We got furniture, wallpaper, flooring, outfits. They were pretty hideous, but it set my expectations for the future events. How cool were Halloween, Turkey Day, and Toy Day going to be with that much content added? And I know people didn't really care for the water eggs getting in the way of their fishing, but I'm sure a lot of us would love the balloon rates to come back when searching for seasonal recipes. They did reduce the event from 2 weeks to 1 week in year 2, which would be considered an improvement. Unfortunately, the event was basically unplayable if you already did it the year before. It actually got worse in the second year. Overall, Bunny Day changed my day-to-day, and I appreciated that the entire island community was celebrating together. The items were hideous, but it gave me hope that another holiday would provide this experience with much better items. The next few updates brought about the vast majority of minor holidays and fleshed out the cast of special characters. Because summer is historically lacking in the event department, it made sense for them to put together a fresh set of events to keep those long summer months going. The Nature Day update brought us a slew of new minor holidays, and also added Leaf, Jolly Red, and an update to the museum. The minor holidays provided some new ideas for the series, but these ideas could have been bigger for the game. These minor holidays included Nature Day, May Day, International Museum Day, and the Wedding Season. Nature Day added a few seasonal Nook Mile Plus goals to achieve. I expected to see more seasonal goals show up in summer, fall, and winter, but that didn't seem to pan out. As far as I can remember, the only other season to have an extra Nook Miles Plus task was winter, and that was building a snowman. This idea could have been used to further distinguish each season and change how you play. May Day and International Museum Day don't get fleshed out much either. May Day introduces the concept of puzzle islands, but it's a one-time-a-year event. It would have been nice to see islands dedicated to more puzzles, or even other ideas. The Museum Day stamp rally doesn't make the exhibits any more interesting either. It would have been really cute to get some extra little info regarding the exhibits. The biggest missed opportunity, though, was wedding season. Players are always jealous of the new items introduced to Pocket Camp each month, and this feature seemed like a good way to do the same for New Horizons. Imagine if each month, a new special character came to visit and introduced a new set to the game. Instead, we're stuck with one mostly unpopular set that rolls around once a year. The most intriguing aspects were definitely the addition of Leaf, Jolly Red, and Art. Leaf introduced bushes and allowed us to purchase flowers we couldn't find on our islands before. His shop really showcases the seasonality of the game by always having the in-season bush in stock. You can also buy out-of-season goods, so it doesn't take long to fill your island with bushes you enjoy. Unfortunately, Leaf's shop quickly starts to feel stale. Once you've decorated with the bushes you like, there isn't much incentive to buy more. It felt like a huge missed opportunity to add new types of greenery like new trees, crops, and even plant furniture. We did get the addition of pumpkins later on, but it still feels like Leaf's shop is really lacking. It would have been much more interesting to see a wide variety of seasonal goods in Leaf's shop and more farming added to the game. We've seen how easily pumpkins were introduced as a crop. They work just like fruit trees, but with a watering mechanic that affects how many pumpkins grow on each plant. Pumpkins were even used in DIY recipes and customizing Halloween items. Imagine getting crops and being able to use the fruits and vegetables you grow in recipes. Imagine Leaf selling new recipes and plants you could use around your island and home. Though Leaf was added and it's nice to have him, it just doesn't feel like his shop has been properly fleshed out since then. Jolly Red makes an appearance to sell art, and it adds an art section to the museum. When Red visits, he brings 4 pieces of art and a couple items you can buy. Red's visits are by far the most exciting for players. Collecting the art and completing the museum is a major goal for many. While Leaf gets stale very quickly, Red remains a welcome guest for much longer periods of time. Of course, genuine pieces of art can be hard to come by, but it does give players a much bigger incentive to log in and see if he's around. Overall, Red's addition to the game provided more longevity and gives you more of a reason to check in each week. The summer update was split into 2 parts and offered some more promising content that I feel did change the day-to-day for a while. Pascal and Gullivar were good examples of this. In part 1, they introduced diving, mermaid items, and pirate items. The diving provided 2 more things to work toward. The first was the extra museum creatures, and the next was the mermaid items. You were incentivized to do this activity. If you wanted to complete your museum, you had to go out there and find those diving creatures. If you wanted some nice mermaid furniture, you could get out there and try to feed Pascal. Gullivar also became an exciting find because you could collect another set of items to further build out your world, especially if you were going for a pirate theme. I thought both of these characters provided a good reason to log in on a daily basis. Summer Wave 2 was a lot less exciting, but it did provide a weekly activity and an easier way to visit another island. Every Sunday in August, you could enjoy fireworks and play the raffle for some extra items. You could also go to bed and meet Luna at the Dream Suite. These definitely weren't as game-changing as the previous updates, but it did fill in a month with something to do. I'd say the biggest benefit was the ability to go and get inspiration from other islands and see all the amazing creations of others without having to ask them if you could visit. The fall update in October provided another huge feature that unfortunately hasn't been fleshed out anymore since it launched. We talked about pumpkins earlier, but I just want to remind you, how cool would it be to see more seasonal crops and new DIYs and just new items in general? Outside of that, the major event added was Halloween. This one was actually really nice. A lot like Bunny Day, it took over the town, but in a more subtle way. Villagers now had some new crafting recipes they'd be working on in their homes. It was really nice to see these recipes integrated into this feature instead of going through the pain of shooting down balloons. I just wish we got more of that for future events. Outside of that, we could also purchase candy and the new DIYs as furniture in Nook's Cranny. Costumes were added to Able Sisters, and we got some skin paint and eye colors and even a couple new reactions to spook our villagers. This update really felt like it took the season into account, and the items were so much cuter than Bunny Day. The only thing I would have liked to see is even more DIY recipes that included crafting costumes. The second fall update came at the end of November and gave us Turkey Day, Toy Day, reactions, hairstyles, a storage expansion, random dreams at the Dream Suite, seasonal items, a catalog in the Switch online app, and save data transfers. This update definitely felt like they tried to address some of the quality of life concerns, especially the worry about moving to a new Switch, but there were definitely quality of life issues that Nintendo didn't touch. I was most happy to finally get some storage. I had been struggling with the available storage for a while, so the extra space was very welcome. Turkey Day was also a nice event. I loved the ingredient hunting we had to do in order to complete the event, and it was hilarious seeing the villagers stuff their faces. I also liked how the DIYs were handled in this one. If you missed the event or didn't have time, you could purchase the recipes in Nook's Cranny for the rest of the month. Turkey Day itself, though, it felt like it was only a day. It didn't feel like the days around it were building up to the event at all. It would have been nice to see more food items introduced and characters crafting those dishes and sharing those DIYs. Even a cooking mechanic would have been great. Halloween gave me this expectation, but Turkey Day just wasn't treated the same way. Toy Day felt like it was built out a little more. There were new recipes available that we could collect and use for decoration leading up to the day. The toys available at Nook's Cranny were very fun too. I visited so many friends to get as many different toys as possible. The event itself was pretty lackluster though. Giving gifts wasn't challenging, and the reward was more of the toys you already spent the month collecting. I do really appreciate holidays that spanned multiple days though, so that aspect of it redeemed Toy Day for me. To me, this is where the updates started to take a shift for several reasons. For one, I think the updates were great supplements each month. Every month was already full of nice new items, clothing, and DIY recipes. Autumn and winter really benefited from the content that was already available. We had pine cones, acorns, ornaments, snow people, and tons of seasonal DIYs that kept me busy. The upcoming months didn't have those strong seasonal aspects, and the updates had to stand for themselves. January's update introduced festivals, some reactions, and seasonal items. This definitely started to feel bare bones. You could basically log in a couple days and experience the entire update. You could log in once to buy the reactions and seasonal items, and then another time to do the festival event. There really wasn't a lot of incentive to keep playing at this point. The Mario update at the end of February also lacked incentive to play. You could basically just log in and buy the Mario and seasonal items you wanted, and then be done. The March Sanrio update was definitely unique, but it was also paid DLC. Sanrio characters were added, and while you could get the items for free from friends, you did have to pay to invite the Sanrio villagers to your island. This update really didn't offer much for people without the cards, and unfortunately, the cards disappeared quickly. They have gone back in stock recently, but this may be a piece of content that is hard to access years down the line. This made up the first year of content updates, and I do believe they started off pretty strong, but started deteriorating by January. Many of the early updates added characters, gameplay features, items, and fresh experiences. I honestly had a great time playing the game for that first part. Unfortunately, Year 2 is just not off to a great start. We've gotten to repeat events with very minimal changes. Now that we've experienced an entire year of the game, I think it's very easy to see the gaps in the game and what could be improved through content updates. What I'd want to see is updates that give people a reason to log in and play every day. So as far as what I'd love to see in the game, I'd like more DIY recipes, a major museum expansion that gives us new fish, bugs, fossils, and art to collect, more furniture at Nook's Cranny, and possibly even an upgrade that makes the store bigger. More clothing at Able Sisters too. Expanding the stock of items from visiting vendors would be nice. Giving us more items to redeem with Nook Miles would be huge too. In general, there's so many gameplay features that New Horizons offers, but they aren't being pushed much further with these updates. And I want to reiterate, I really enjoyed the first 9 months of the updates, and even the ones beyond that, but they've been steadily declining, and Year 2 just doesn't look very promising at this point. I have a suspicion that the pandemic had a huge effect on the development team, and between those struggles and possibly being called to other projects to meet deadlines, New Horizons took a hit. I do hope there's a major update in the works, but I don't know how far we are from a really substantial update. For now, New Horizons is a game I love. I still play most days and find my own activities to keep the game interesting. It's comfort food for me. Animal Crossing is my favorite series, and I see so much potential with the concepts introduced in New Horizons. I also think the game did a great job of introducing a lot of new features that made the game infinitely more playable for people who've never been into the series. I think New Horizons is a new beginning for Animal Crossing. The team has a lot of wonderful new features to build off of in the future, and whether that's an update or a new game, I know I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. Alright everybody, it has been a long journey, but it's finally time to talk about my final thoughts. The major goal I had in mind was to look at the features of New Horizons and see if the game provided enough to keep players engaged over long periods of time. While I personally feel some features did well and others didn't, the difficulty in that task is that I know I'm one person and I really only know how I feel about the game. So I know I can't speak for the community as a whole, but if you've gotten this far or skipped ahead to see what I'd say, you're at least interested in what my take on New Horizons is. To me, New Horizons stays true to its title and shoots the series in a new direction. It explores new ways to make a game out of familiar Animal Crossing elements. It feels like a reset to the Animal Crossing series, and not a complete reset, but here's what I mean. Almost everything new about New Horizons was already in the base game. Before the updates, before anything got added, the game introduced a deserted space we needed to fill, town building elements like moving homes and decorating outside, a crafting system, an achievement system, and even a story to help new players become more acquainted with how Animal Crossing works. All of these things made Animal Crossing a game that was much easier for players to get into. I also think that all of these things take older concepts from the series and make them a lot more fun. A lot of what I wanted this new game to do was actually accomplished. I came into it wanting to recover a bear or run downtown. The deserted island provided the perfect playground to do that. I came into it wanting items revamped. We've had the same furniture sets with a few additions each game for nearly 20 years. It was nice to see some fresh items. I wanted to be rewarded for my small day-to-day accomplishments. Nook Mile goals and redemptions helped keep that going. There were so many ideas that made the game so much more playable than previous titles, and these changes made it feel like I was an active player. Previous Animal Crossing games involved so much more waiting for things to happen. It's not a bad thing, but here's an example. A new day started, you'd go check the shops for anything new, buy what you wanted, and then item collection stopped right there. The crafting gave us way more to discover and even allowed us to keep making items throughout the day, even after you've exhausted the shop. In previous games, you had much less control over obtaining items. The crafting in New Horizons isn't perfect, and yes, I'd love to see more shops appear in the game, but I think blending the two offers some great advantages to previous titles. And this gets me to what I think the main problem with New Horizons was: pacing. To me, the base game truly represents the game that Nintendo wanted to put out, and to be honest, I feel like these new features and experiences were the ones that players enjoyed the most. Think back to the first couple months of the game, and tell me you didn't have fun. I think what we ran into was a problem with the pacing of all that fun. We got through it too quickly. Unfortunately, there are very real-world events that may have had a large effect on how we experienced the pacing of the game, but even with that, I think we would have caught on to these problems eventually. The story was over within a month of the game for me. Turning the deserted island into a full-fledged town with villagers, shops, and the museum was fun, but it was all over too fast. Like I said, it could be because I played the game like it was a job and got in about 8 hours a day, but even then, I'm convinced under normal circumstances, a lot of the most exciting aspects of the early game could be completed within 2 months. After that, people start to see what the game needs. It has a small shopping catalog, new DIYs become harder to find, and the amount of time between Nook Mile goals gets longer and longer. Everything that kept feeding into our excitement got slower and slower. We got into the late game of Animal Crossing really quickly, and that was where players got bored. We hoped updates would change things, but I think that's where we were mistaken. As I've been saying, I think the launch version of the game represents the new content to the game. It represents the core ideas the game was built around. New Horizons is ultimately a design-driven game. Unfortunately, I don't think the updates have reflected that very well. I'd love to see new buildings, new furniture, new clothes, and new ways to keep revamping my island. I wish the updates fed into that a little bit more, but I also recognize that this is a major problem that the other players have with it. These updates just aren't feeding into what they miss about the series. They want to see more of the life sim ideas come back. So far, the updates feel like they've just been filling in the calendar with some events and items to keep the day-to-day going. And that's where the pacing really falls off. The beginning of the game is go, 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 and then it takes a steep dive that has players relying on their own creativity to enjoy the game. For me, this hasn't been a huge issue. I still play the game nearly daily and have found that there are things in the game I still want to do and actually enjoy doing. I'm working on filling my item and clothing catalog. I'm working toward finishing every single Nook Mile goal. I still find major redecorating projects on my island that keep me coming back and messing with things. No, I don't play 8 hours a day anymore, but that probably wasn't a healthy way to be playing the game in the first place. For me, New Horizons has gotten to that sweet spot where I can play 20 to 30 minutes a day and then suddenly be struck with inspiration and get a couple hours out of the game. I've always loved approaching Animal Crossing that way. I like doing little things here and there, and then looking back a month or two and being proud of the progress I've made. So for those who are disappointed with New Horizons, I am going to try to leave you with at least a little bit of hope. Because of New Horizons, I see so much potential with the future of Animal Crossing. There are two ways I see this potential. The first is direction. I think New Horizons introduced concepts that made Animal Crossing more playable than ever. I think it's a great jumping off point to further improve these concepts and really improve the pacing of the content. We have a lot of really good things for the series to jump into, and if there's anything I know to be true about Nintendo, it's that they always move forward. It may be a little slow, but it's forward movement nonetheless. They're going to take these ideas further and even add new ideas while they're at it. I know people loved New Leaf. I loved New Leaf, but New Leaf was the ultimate version of what Animal Crossing was. New Horizons is the start of what Animal Crossing is going to be. The next reason I have hope is because of its success. This game connected with people at a time we needed it most. It became a sensation and sold so much better than I could have ever imagined. I think that incentivizes Nintendo to keep supporting not only New Horizons, but Animal Crossing as a series in the future. DLC is a fairly new concept for Nintendo. They played around with it during the Wii U era with things like Mario Kart 8, but it didn't become a normal thing for them until the Switch. When the current president of Nintendo, Shuntaro Furukawa, took over in 2018, he made a very clear statement about how he's going to approach the games at Nintendo. He said, "We need continuous growth. We must keep releasing new software, and that includes DLC and other contents for big titles that are already out, and more focus on online play. Lastly, more genres and diverse games to draw in people who don't currently play on Switch." New Horizons clearly represents that strategy. Because Nintendo is fairly new to DLC though, I think they have a lot of work to do before they get future updates right. All this said, Nintendo is aiming to keep people engaged in their existing games, so I think it's safe to expect continued support for New Horizons. And I'm honestly sure we'll see some content updates that'll surprise us. I've played Animal Crossing for over 20 years now. I see a really bright future for the series ahead. Whether these things come in New Horizons or the next Animal Crossing game, I do think New Horizons is the start of something really special. Thank you to anybody who's made it to the end of this video. If you want to see more about Animal Crossing and Nintendo, please subscribe. Bye!